When I was an angsty teenager, I decided it would be cool to make a Ouija board with my own blood.
What the fuck?
Today, we're grateful for ghost stories. What the fuck is this thing?
It's not what you picture when you're driving home for the holidays.
Heggle, hey.
Heggle, hey.
We really need to make some new merch because we've come up with some great slogans lately that we need to put on something.
I feel like on Patreon, people remind us of it. And I screenshot.
I wrote them down.
Okay, good. Because I've been screenshotting them.
And then they get lost in the screenshots.
Yeah.
No, but I put it in our running list, to-do list. There's 2. Witchy behavior.
That's the one I screenshotted the other day.
And go cleanse yourself.
Oh, fuck yes. Oh, I love this brand.
I'm so glad. That's actually really good news for me that you love this brand as much as Hey, news flash, everyone. Corinne loves this brand.
Oh wait, the brand is us. I forgot.
Who are we, by the way?
2 girls, 1 ghost.
2 girls, 1 ghost.
And we clearly don't have any egos over here.
We just love ourselves.
I fucking love us.
I love us. That's Corinne, who I love. And I'm Sabrina, who I also love. I love myself. It took a long time to get here, but hey, I love myself. And I'm still working on it every day because sometimes I hate myself. But most of the time, I love myself.
We give thanks to those moments.
Oh my God, we do because it's Thanksgiving.
It's Thanksgiving.
The day that we slaughtered so many innocent people. No, well, we didn't do it on that day. We paused it for the day.
Not to be super political, but I feel like that's kind of on brand for American history.
Slaughter? I don't know why I'm going to say it like that.
Is it political? It's just history.
It's just truth.
It's all of it.
It's everything.
And yeah, so we all get together.
We're really great
with friends and family. And we pretend to ignore all of these things. And we say we're thankful for other people. We outline our hands on craft paper and make little turkeys out of them. And
today we're grateful for ghost stories.
Yeah, this is
we'll just get away from that sadness real quick. I'm going to be in Amsterdam when this comes out.
Oh yeah. What's your itinerary? Because you're gone for a while.
10 days.
That's a while.
Not that long.
Every day is so long.
I haven't taken a vacation in how long? And I'm also going to be working on that trip, so it won't be really. But I'm going somewhere different, which is fun.
I feel like you say that because like I think your idea of vacation is like something specific, but I feel like you're always gone because you're always taking like little tiny weekend trips places.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely taking advantage of the fact that we can work remotely, but like
I have to touch your sweater.
Oh, please touch me.
It looks so freaking soft.
I've had this sweater for like 10 years. It's from Zara. I've never been able to find it again.
This is so nice.
It's the best.
I had ones in this material and I got holes in all of them. They like were pilling and coming out.
Oh, there's one little pill coming.
You better be careful. Don't touch that pill because if you can't find that sweater again, you're effed.
It's the best. And it's like perfectly oversized and comfy. Love.
Beautiful.
My itinerary, I'm going to be Payne and I are going to Amsterdam. So it's Payne's birthday on the 21st. So we're going to be in Amsterdam for like 5 days at just like a normal hotel. And then we're going to Bruges in Belgium. Oh. And this is kind of like a really monumental moment for me because I was conceived on Thanksgiving in Belgium 31 years ago.
You've been called back.
I'm coming back. I've never been. I don't know if it was Bruges, but either way, we're going and we're staying at this super cool, super historic place, which obviously I'll talk a lot more about it when we go. And then we're going back to Amsterdam for 2 days and staying at this it used to be a notary. It's called the Notary. It literally used to be a notary.
Oh.
Yeah. And the rooms are all themed and it's like a museum now. It's super cool. It kind of looks like a ship.
Cool. Yeah. Oh, I need to see pictures of this.
Yeah.
This sounds awesome.
Yeah. But I'm excited.
Take a lot of photos. Because then when you talk about it, we can show everybody.
Insert photo.
It's like when people, because of course you want to see all of Sabrina's vacation photos, right? Isn't that I actually do, but it's like the classic thing where someone's
projector.
Like, oh, I took a trip. And they show you like 100 photos of them just like in the same spot in the ocean holding a pina colada.
Do you remember that was such a thing? Like after vacations, I remember my mom would invite friends and family over and they'd have the printed photos that we picked up.
Yes, and you put them in a little scrapbook?
And no, like she would literally pass them out and like be like, hey, like this is us here. This is us here. It's like, who cares?
It feels like who cares, but like
I guess
when you love
care.
someone, you do care.
And I
like,
guess we have that equivalent now where it's all online and you just pick the, like, the best photos.
And people who choose to follow you
can
care.
look at
They
it.
want to see your vacation photos.
So it's the equivalent of you all coming over to my house and looking at my vacation photos.
Yeah, so let's see this old ship place.
We will.
Okay, great.
Until then, we have ghost stories. This is from our listener, Nadia, and it is called, I really believe that my entire family are alien hybrids. Am I too?
I was just going to say, well, then that means you are, right?
Unless you're adopted.
I'm like,
okay.
Excited.
Hey, my ghosty girly besties, I've been a listener for years and I would like to tell you my story. I believe my entire family have gifts and they don't fade with age. So I realized my connection with the other side a few years back when I pretty much felt death on my great aunt and cousin. Felt it on them. On 2 different occasions, I hugged them and got really sad and tears started coming down my face for no reason. Not 2 weeks later, both of them passed.
Whoa, this is so interesting to actually like feel it. Because people talk about auras, people talk about premonitions, but to just like
feel it.
Feel the energy of what's about to happen to someone when you're touching them.
How confusing that must be too.
Yeah.
On Thanksgiving last year was when I actually heard the words from a loved one. My family and I were sitting around the kitchen laughing and enjoying our time together when all of a sudden I got an overwhelming feeling of sadness. Not necessarily death sadness, just a longing sadness, and a message came through my mind like a thought. I heard, everything's going to be okay. He is going to be okay. And I somehow knew it was from my great aunt Eloise, and I knew that I was supposed to tell my cousin that message, who was her daughter. And the he that was being referred to was her brother who was going through legal problems, and the sister was struggling trying to save him.
No.
So I told my cousin, who was sitting next to me because she noticed my sudden change of body language, what had just happened. And not 5 minutes later, my baby cousin came in and said she was talking to Aunt Eloise in the bathroom. She never met Aunt Eloise. She wasn't even born when Aunt Eloise passed away. So I had to tell everyone what had happened. Fast forward some years later to present day. My family laid my 90-year-old great-grandmother to rest, and last year we laid my grandmother to rest. She was buried right beside her along with 3 of her other kids. As we were all leaving, everyone had gotten in the cars and were pulling off, but we had been struggling to get my 1.5-year-old son in the car. He continuously kept trying to go back to the gravesite.
Oh.
This was about 50 yards away from our car. So my sister looked at me and said, let's just see where he goes. What really had me in tears was when he started laughing and waving both of his hands playfully. He went back to the grave and he was saying bye-bye.
Oh, I have chills. Oh my God.
Later that same weekend, my family and I were sitting around the kitchen area talking, and one of my little cousins was sitting off to the side and just started pouting. I go, what's wrong? And he says, man, I'm mad. I ask why, what's wrong? He says, man, Aunt Ree said I can't come with her. I ask, when did she say that? And he said that she said it this morning. But y'all, his Aunt Ree is my grandma who passed last year. Thanks for reading my story. See you on the other side, Nadia. So the
I just got chills
family.
Again. Oh my God. It's like kind of beautiful.
I love it because they're all so connected and intertwined.
Right.
It's all positive. I mean, it's sad to feel death on people and then for them to pass away, and also sad to bury so many loved ones. But like, clearly you're all so connected to one another because all of these hauntings are related to family members.
And I also think that it's so beautiful that her son can see relatives so clearly, because I feel like that's another thing when people lose family members, like when they're pregnant or when they're, I think it's just like a common thing where people are like, oh, I wish you could have met. Like my mom says it all the time about my dad's dad. Like, oh, I wish you could have met your grandpa Bob.
Yeah.
Like he was such a great guy. And I think it's really beautiful that like sometimes they do.
Sometimes they do.
Just because they're gone doesn't mean they never get to meet them.
Yeah.
They most certainly will.
Yeah. That's really sweet.
That is really sweet.
Also, this is our reminder. I feel like every year on Thanksgiving, we do say this. I mean, this is a note for everyone all the time, but I think we say it a lot on Thanksgiving because it is a time when you're gathered with family, friends, people that perhaps you don't see all the time. Sit them down, break that wishbone, I don't know, and say, so What ghost stories have you been keeping from me and withholding from me? Because I need to know them so I can tell my good friends, Corinne and Sabrina, at Two Girls, One Ghost podcast.
It's the perfect opportunity. I would also argue that this is a conversation starter that will get people excited, riled up, and also it's not overly divisive, although maybe some people feel like it is, but I feel like it's kind of safe.
Didn't that sound like
sounded
drums?
like drums. Hello?
The British are coming.
The Americans!
That was so weird.
That is weird.
It really sounded like reenactment militia drums.
I don't know. Interesting. Anyway, ask friends and family for ghost stories. And if you are someone who doesn't have the opportunity to be with friends and family this Thanksgiving, we can be your friends and family, and you can tell ghost stories right now with us.
Hey!
Listening to Two Girls One Ghost will be your company.
Yes.
Okay. I feel like every year I usually pick ones that are like really heartwarming because it's like, oh, whatever, Thanksgiving. And this year I picked one that is and one that's not because they both happened around Thanksgiving time. So I was like, okay, that's the direction I'm going to take this year.
I went for I searched Thanksgiving, but then I also picked something that was clearly a subject line for me. And I'm grateful for that. I made it about me. I'm selfish.
No, you are for you. You are not for everyone else.
This is witchy behavior. I'm just being us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just being us.
Because you and I
I'm
are
just
one.
being me. I'm just being us. It's funny that you're like, I'm just being us, because when Marissa was here visiting, I caught myself one time and I said, okay, I promise that this is the last time I'm going to bring up Sabrina because you were just in all of my stories. So I talk about you constantly. And I was like, I promise I'm not obsessed with Sabrina. I mean, every second of my life.
We don't do much outside of spend time with each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Every story I had for the past year, I'm like, so me and Sabrina. So Sabrina told me, so Sabrina this, Sabrina that. I'm like, wow.
And I'm also your capsule into the outside world.
Yeah, you tell me what happens beyond these
your
walls.
eyes and ears.
Yeah. I follow you on social media. I see some things. Is this called Shapeshifter? Cannibal Deer?
No, not deer.
Maybe. Hola. I just recently started listening to your podcast. I didn't start at the beginning. I'm working my way backwards. I would be lying if I said I knew which episode I'm on, and nobody wants to start something on a lie. So yeah. My name is Jenny. You pronounce it like Forrest Gump says Jenny without the southern twang.
So just Jenny?
Well, it's interesting because it's spelled J-E-N-N-A-Y. Jenny. So is it Janae? It's Janae, not Jenny. Janae instead of Jenny.
Or is it just Jenny, but it looks like it's spelled Janae? Oh, no. Okay, we'll say it. Jenny.
Janae.
I'm sorry.
I think it's Janae. I'm going to say Janae.
Okay.
I have a few stories to share with you, but I'm writing this on a whim, so I will stick with one that won't require me to sit down and think about the timeline.
Fair.
Picture this somewhere in Pennsylvania, 2016.
Okay.
I was driving back home to New York for Thanksgiving from Nashville. I was rocking out to Metallica, minding my own business, and I started feeling very nervous. I couldn't explain it, so I convinced myself that it was just the insane amount of coffee and Red Bull that I was smashing during my journey.
Smashing.
All of a sudden, my Bluetooth started going out, and I was pissed. I was like, what the fuck? This shouldn't be happening. I hadn't listened to FM radio in years. I was damn sure I wasn't about to start doing that during this long-ass, boring drive. And
Hell
yes,
no.
I cuss a lot. It is my thing.
Fuck it.
Thankfully, fucking Jenny. Thankfully, whatever malfunction was going on remedied itself. Now to the juicy part.
Juicy.
So you caressed your thigh while you said that.
Oh, I was juicy. It's like the Mean Girls dance.
Yeah. So along the deserted highway was something in the median on the driver's side. I was cruising on the left lane, so I slowed down because crashing equals a horrible fucking road trip.
Yeah. Don't want that.
No. I've never seen a creature like this before.
Oh, no.
It resembled a deer, but it was on its back legs, and it was eating roadkill. Yes, all of that is fucked up. Deer don't do that, but that's not all, though. It had these fangs, sort of like a werewolf, and it had these black eyes that radiated their darkness through the dark night. And I know that this makes zero sense, but now imagine being me. So the radio, I just about died when it stopped working. It literally turned off. I didn't realize it at the time, but it did. Me and this fucking thing held eye contact as I passed. I looked in the rearview window as I passed it, and it was there in the road looking back at me. I know because of the eyes. They were black, but they were glowing, and I can't articulate it. I spent about 5 minutes driving like a bat out of hell in silence. And that's when I realized that the music had turned off.
Again?
I think it started to like go in and out. And then
Then it fully turned off.
The second they made eye contact, I was so scared I didn't even try to turn it back on. Now I was listening to One by Metallica, but when the radio kicked back on about 10 minutes later, I was on Enter Sandman during the prayer hook. I turned off my fucking radio so fast and started saying the Lord's Prayer over and over and over again. And I didn't talk about it for a while because who the fuck would believe that? Well, we would.
Us. This is horrifying.
So that's it. My short story explaining whatever the fuck I saw in the mountains of Pennsylvania. I fucking hate driving through there. So I guess it's a thing to say, see you on the other side. So yeah, I'll see you there. Janai.
What the fuck is this thing? I feel like I'm just going to curse a lot because Janai said it's cool, so we're going to curse all over the place. Sorry. I tried to think of a curse word to say in that sentence and I couldn't.
We're trying to absorb your personality right now, the one that we made up from the tone of your email.
Yeah. But what the fuck? It seems like that moment probably was in reality only 30-ish seconds, but feels like in the way that Jenna experienced it was 10 minutes long, and like the eye contact and seeing every detail of this not dear creature.
Yeah. And it's like being alone on the road and like rocking
something?
out, just like doing your normal, it's Thanksgiving. Like this
is the beginning of a horror movie.
It is.
Is what it is.
And it's eating the roadkill.
Standing on its back 2 legs.
Ew.
It's got New Jersey Devil vibes mixed with not dear.
Yeah.
Mixed with disturbing. Cannibalism. It was Thanksgiving.
It was feasting.
It was feasting.
Yuck. It's not what you picture when you're driving home for the holidays.
No, it's not. But oftentimes I feel like those drives do conjure up the weirdest things because so many people are on the road trying to get places and go places. There's probably just weird energy just festering all over the place.
Everyone's anxious.
Yeah.
There's always anxiety.
Yeah.
Like I feel like no one just like goes home without it, right?
if you actually, I had a friend in college, and we've talked about this recently. Like sometimes knowing too much, I think, plagues you, and it's sometimes nicer to be more naive. Yeah. Anyway, I had a friend in college who was the most pleasant, pure human I've ever met. I think about her so often because I've never met anyone else like this, where I'm like, she's a unicorn.
She's a ray of sunshine.
A literal ray of sunshine.
Like her voice, everything about her. I mean, I don't know this person, but I follow this person on social media. Her name is Kristen Johns. And I feel like she reminds me a lot of the person that you're talking about, where it's just like, it seems like pure innocence, just like a happy person with like that light, sweet voice, and just everyone who sees, like they're so smiley and just happy.
Sees the best in everything, in every situation. Hopefully, knock on wood, it seems like has never experienced any trauma, was really well adjusted, had great parental figures. They communicate through their issues or don't even have issues to communicate through.
Yeah.
If you exist, let us know.
Well, the person we're thinking of probably doesn't have anxiety driving home for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, true. They probably
do
live
they
at home.
Road rage? They probably do live at home. I think they did after college, didn't they?
She did.
There we go.
Yeah. If I lived at home, my mother and I would have some scars. This is a great email to read based on this conversation. It's called Teen Angst, Demons, and Cute Cursed Items and Ouija Things. Hey. So when I was a teenager, I used to live in a haunted house. Many things happened over the years, and we generally concluded as a family that the house had bad vibes. But we did have a lot of great memories there. However, it was a house that had a lot of bad memories too, because at the time, my family was not getting along very well. Anyway, we had someone come bless the house this one time, and the person blessing the house asked my dad if he kept anything in the house that might be an antique. This guy blessing the house pointed in a direction where he thought the antique might have been. And my dad was quite surprised that he pointed that way because in that room, in the closet, he had a knife that was given to him by his father, which he had gotten in Bali. The handle of the knife had a face that looked like a demon or a goblin. And this person who blessed the house said that the knife had an attachment to it, that it was large and a dark being causing havoc in the house. And it hangs around the house or in the backyard in a tree because it was not being taken care of properly.
Interesting.
In our region, certain knives and certain objects need to be taken care of with rituals where you cleanse the item and sort of give it a mini sacrifice. My dad did not know this, nor did his dad tell him that he had to do anything like that, because he probably didn't know either. So this object was just collecting dust in the closet for years. So anyway, I and my siblings used to get a lot of sleep paralysis in that particular house. I used to get it quite often in my room, but I remember the very first time that I had sleep paralysis, I couldn't move, and I saw a tall, dark figure hovering above me, sort of crouching down above me from the edge of my bed. I remember being terrified, but as I came to, being a fan of the paranormal even back then, I ran right to my family computer in the pitch darkness in the middle of the night to Google what the heck it was. And that is when I found all about sleep paralysis on the internet. I love this. I love not even turning the lights on, being like, I need to know what this was.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Straight to like the blue screen opened up in the darkness.
Yeah. It's like horrifying, but I'm so stoked. Around that time, my sister used to sleep in my room with me. And in my room, she too had her first experience of sleep paralysis. It was a very similar experience. But instead of the dark figure hovering above my sister watched it hover over me.
Oh my God. This reminds me so much of your story with your sister, just like knowing everyone's parts or specifically their parts.
Right. But our listener is saying that her sister was paralyzed, seeing her experience the sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
It's wild. So she couldn't move or speak. When we spoke about it later, we started to call this thing Blackie. I don't know why, but this house, every time we talk about ghost experiences, we link it to our friend Blackie. You could imagine me and my sister's surprise after someone described Blackie again years after both of us experienced the sleep paralysis. Here are two theories on why we experienced it. One, it had something to do with that knife that my dad had in the closet. Or two, is that I probably did not make things better because when I was an angsty teenager, I decided it would be cool to make a Ouija board with my own blood.
What the fuck? Oh my God.
When I played, also like what I need to know all the other materials. Like it's not just like a pool of blood and then you wrote your like the letters in it, right? Like what? I imagine the letters were written in blood.
And did the idea come like when you cut yourself and you were like, oh, I'll use this blood, or did you like prick your finger to create it?
I think there was an active choice in creating it.
Man.
We need more information.
This is a weird question, but I wonder how long blood stays. Like if you were to get like a nosebleed and you just collected it in a jar and you put it in the fridge, like how long is that good for?
Good for? Like you can be
crafts.
drinking it? Oh, for crafting.
Yeah.
Like how long does it stay liquid?
How long can you use it to create a blood Ouija board until it's like, this is... And does it become like dangerous? Does it grow mold?
Oh, that's interesting. Does blood grow mold? I like how I look to the cameras as if
Me too.
someone is going to respond immediately.
Someone will.
We should just take to the internet.
We
Hey,
need
Siri.
we need a phlebotomist.
Hey, Siri.
Is that the right word?
Phlebotomist?
A phlebotomist?
I don't know.
I think those are the blood people.
The blood people.
The people made of blood.
Blood grow mold
Outside of the body.
and get moldy or bacterial contamination, especially if left at room temperature.
Okay. Curious how long this blood Ouija board was
Can
good
I tell
for.
you the 3 or the 4 different Reddit threads that came up when I Googled that? Lab rats, witchcraft, morbid questions, moldy interesting.
I feel like all 4 of those perfectly are encapsulated in what we talk about.
Exactly. Those are our favorite Reddit threads.
That's our genre.
Okay, here Saz is with a blood-made Ouija board. And when I played the Ouija board, I didn't really have any responses. But when I look back, I do think all of the sleep paralysis and encounters with Blackie happened after my blood Ouija board creation. So maybe I summoned him? Was it a result of keeping this Ouija board a secret from my family? We moved out eventually, but my sister and brother stayed for a few months after the rest of the family moved to a different house. They were eventually forced to move out of the house because it was mostly empty, and also because they got scared of the strange noises and happenings. They amplified when the rest of us had moved out, and the house eventually felt oppressive and dark the longer they stayed.
Oh, no.
Anyway, I'm a much calmer adult now, and despite my curiosity to the paranormal, I can safely say that I am only a content consumer of the occult, observing from a distance rather than being a practitioner by any means.
Although I feel like practicing comes naturally because instead of just being like, oh, let me get a piece of paper or let me go buy a Ouija board from Toys R Us, Saz is like, I know how to make this from my own blood and body.
Changed their tune about it. It's like,
Okay.
I'm no longer crafting.
No longer crafting.
No longer crafting. Is that where witchcraft comes from? It's like a little craft corner?
Yeah, wait, that's exactly what my train of thought was just going to. I was like,
wait.
How fun is this?
Okay.
And it also makes me especially happy talking about it this way because from our Discord channel, the Two Girls One Ghost Discord channel, you guys can join it. It's open to anyone. There is a group of people who do crafts together.
They do. Witchcraft. There we go. You've heard it here first. We discovered witchcraft.
It's ours.
TM.
Witch.
Anyway, hope you enjoyed my story. Thank you, TGOG. Much love. Saz from Brunei? I don't know where that is.
Me neither.
Anyway, thanks, Saz.
Interesting.
Anyone else create a Ouija board with their own blood? Because I would love to know more about that.
I know. And how long did Saz keep this board? I need to know that.
How much blood does it take is my question.
And do we have a picture? Is there a Polaroid?
Do you still have the board? What did you do with the board?
Scrapbook? Did you create a scrapbook of your
blood? Have you ever done a bloodletting ceremony?
No. Have you
ever become no. Have you ever become blood brothers with anyone?
No.
Would you like to become one?
No.
This does seem like something we would do with the Brotherhood.
Yes, but I'm so aware of diseases.
Okay, well, we can drip it into like a bowl and like, like a mortar and pestle. We'll mortar and pestle
I would mortar and pestle my blood with you.
Okay, great.
Quick. We got to text the Brotherhood. First, the hair rat tail braid.
I don't know if we've talked about that.
Second book club. I think we did. Yes, we did.
It might have been in the unrecorded episode.
Oh, was it?
I think so.
Oh.
We made a strange
Ghost Girls
Brotherhood, Cult and Coven.
Cult and Coven. It's such a hard name to remember.
We have a Brotherhood, Cult and Coven with Ash and Elena of Morbid. That is a book club / paranormal investigative group
/ friendship.
It's
just a friend group that does weird things.
Together. And one of the weird things we did.
It's a yes and group.
It is.
No one's ever said no to anything anyone's pitched.
Ever. Inspired by the book Slewfoot by Brahm, we cut off chunks of our hair and braided them all together, making a witchy rat tail that is traveling. It's a traveling rat tail.
Yeah. I'm trying to find my little spot.
I haven't been able to find it.
Oh, I found it.
Wow,
I know exactly where it is. I can feel ash on the back of my head, chopping it off.
And now we are going to have a mortar and pestle blood coven.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Next book club. Okay. I have an email that is called Jesus Gave Me Golden Wings. A grandfather sets me free and the cat sees a ghost.
This does sound lovely.
It does,
okay.
Right? Hi, ghostesses. I'm fairly new to the podcast. Oh, how interesting. As I first learned about you from the Morbid Gals.
Haha, serendipity.
I joined your Patreon and I'm trying to go through all of the archives a few at a time while also listening to all of the new stuff. Obviously, I love the podcast or I wouldn't be here sending in my stories to you.
Or a Patreon member.
Or a Patreon member. Thank you. But I wanted to say one thing about you guys that I really appreciate. Oh, starting off with compliments.
Thank you.
They give thanks to us.
It's Thanksgiving.
It's Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
So send us compliments.
Compliment us. I feel like everyone who emails us starts with a compliment.
They do.
Yeah.
We always read them. We could omit them, but why?
But why?
Most, if not all of what you cover is material that gets a hefty helping of side-eye from the vast majority of the population, including my husband. Every time you read others' stories, you take the time to explore the details and share your thoughts on the possibilities of meanings and causes, including new theories of your own. It's really validating to those who write in because we all believe in what we've experienced because we experienced it. So thank you for creating a space where people can share and feel believed and encouraged.
That's really nice.
That is nice. Sometimes I forget. Like it's because we believe in it so much. Like I don't even consider
it not being possible.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like we're putting effort into believing anyone's stories.
And we're also just like, we genuinely want to know and we are so curious.
Yeah.
Because there is no, right now where we are in history and in knowledge, we don't have explanation yet. So it is a lot of hypothesizing and exploring what ifs and maybe it's this. And I think that's so much of the fun of the paranormal.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not?
Right.
That's our slogan. It's like got milk or like just do it. 2 girls, 1 ghost.
Why not?
I've always been very sensitive to energy and can often feel things that others don't. I've had wild sensory experiences that I can't explain or justify. For example, during the attacks on 9/11, I could feel the chaos inside the towers.
Oh.
I could smell smoke. I could hear the alarms and the screams.
Jeez.
I felt lost in the darkness of the stairwells, and I could even hear the wind in the ears of people jumping to their deaths. I didn't try to feel these things. It just happened to me.
How old was she?
I have no idea.
Jeez.
Fortunately, I could turn it on and off, but even to this day, I can clearly recall the experience.
That to me, it feels like it backs up this idea of universal consciousness so much that like we are all connected to one another.
Yeah.
And if you are able, like you can connect to that. I think of it as like the computer web systems and the way that everything's like pinging off of each other.
Literally fungi. Like, oh God, what was that study? There was like some study where they like took some fungi and like the oil has like some sort of reaction. Oh God, I can't remember. But basically it was like they took something that in like a group of mushrooms or fungi or whatever, like has a certain reaction. They like brought it 3,000 miles away from like where it was, and it still was like interacting and communicating with its like host colony of cells. It is wild.
We are fungus.
We are. We're stardust. We're fungus. We're creepy little meat suits.
Yeah.
And we're just here to have a fun time.
And why not? If we don't know what to say, we just like, why not?
Another time, I was in my third of a series of craniosacral therapy sessions trying to get relief from severe pain from TMJ disorder. If you don't know what that is, it's an alternative therapy using gentle touch to feel and manipulate the energy of the craniosacral fluid that flows along the spinal cord. Oh. Listen, I was the biggest skeptic, but I was desperate as I was getting zero pain relief from anything that I could take and still pick up my children from school without getting a DUI. Anyway, the first 2 sessions were uneventful, but I'd paid for 3. There I was. About halfway through the session, the therapist asked me if I had anxiety, and if so, what part of the body did it reside? I said yes, and then I felt it in my chest. I can't recall what she said after that, but it was something along the lines of close your eyes and visualize it leaving your body. So I started imagining it as this black, sticky substance completely covering my lungs. I'm an artist, so visualizing weird shit is my jam, but it got really weird. Huge golden wings started growing outward from my back. Not literally, duh, but all of this just was happening in my imagination without any intention or effort on my part. So I grew wings, and then Jesus appeared? That's right, the big J, the man himself. And I'm not even religious, mind you. I kind of believe anything is possible and that we've never really had all the answers to the other side of the veil.
Literally what we were just talking about.
Why not?
Why not?
So I just accepted everything as could be the truth. Jesus proceeded to place his hands on my lungs, which caused all the black gunk to start melting. He then put his hands below my lungs to catch it all as it ran out. But as soon as it hit his hands, all of it turned to streams and streams of pearls that spilled and poured out all over the place.
This is beautiful.
I know. And then it was over. I opened my eyes. I looked at the therapist and said, "What the fuck was that?" And I don't remember what she said, but I left that place absolutely stunned. And oddly enough, I never had any more trouble with TMJ pain.
Whoa.
I have seen or felt a few ghosts in my years. One time I saw a boy from the 1800s running and skipping along the porch of this very old house in my town. I've seen a woman in a white dress and all kinds of shadowy movements. When I was a kid, I had several experiences where I felt this overwhelming evil presence in my house. And it was extremely dangerous, and it took the form of witches in my mind. But that's probably because my parents watched Salem's Lot one night after I'd gone to bed, and I could hear the terror from my room. But no, thank you. I've never been a horror flick kind of gal. And I can watch and I can listen to the horrors of true crime all day long, but do not come at me with demons or clowns that can control your mind. Anyway, this dark, heavy presence would arrive suddenly and take over my body. I would be unable to move a single muscle. And when I tried to call out for my mom, I couldn't make any sound at all.
Oh, so sad.
All I could feel was white hot fear until I would finally be able to break the silence and call out for her to help me. She always told me that I just had this overactive imagination, but why would I choose to imagine something like that?
No,
I
wouldn't.
I didn't know anything about sleep paralysis back then, but my experience sounds similar to other stories that I've heard about that. And I never saw a figure, but I sure did feel it.
That's enough.
Mm-hmm. My favorite ghost experience was one I had with my grandfather. My father's dad was a very quiet man, and he didn't really have much to say when the family got together. He would just sit quietly enjoying the rest of us as we chattered and laughed. As a result, I didn't really get to know him that well. One fall, when I was in college, I had a long weekend break and didn't have any school on Monday or Tuesday. My parents had told my grandparents that we would be over for the weekend to visit. Sunday morning, they got the call from my grandfather asking if we were still coming. I think he had assumed that I would have to get back to school on Sunday. It was a 3-hour drive away, and that we weren't visiting after all. He must have been very concerned because he never called. Calling was always up to my grandmother. I do not remember one other time that he's ever called our house. That night, we were all sitting in the living room visiting when he had to excuse himself to go to the bathroom. He came back shortly after, but when he sat back down in his chair, his eyes rolled back in his head. He was having a heart attack. Everyone lost their shit. Dad got him to the floor and started CPR, yelling at him to wake up. My grandmother was screaming, and he died right there in front of us.
Oh my gosh.
And I will never forget how awful it was.
I'm so sorry.
I was certain he knew that his time was near and that he wanted to see me one last time. After his funeral in the coming weeks, I felt overwhelmed with guilt now that he was gone. I'd never thought to chat him up, to ask him questions about his life, or really get to know him. And now he was gone, and I struggled a lot with this. Around Thanksgiving, I was back at home, and I was telling my mom what a hard time I was having moving past that guilt. That night, I was laying in bed, not thinking of anything in particular, just trying to go to sleep, when all of a sudden the room got super still and quiet. Not the usual stillness and quiet during sleeping hours, but like I was suddenly in a vacuum. And I remember looking at the ceiling fan, wondering why on earth I couldn't feel a breeze anymore. And then I smelled dirt, like a dusty kind of old dirt that you would find piled up on left behind furniture in an abandoned house. I wasn't sure what to make of any of this, and I wasn't scared at all. I was just perplexed. So I rolled over to my side to try to go to sleep, but there was something there in front of me beside my bed. And I couldn't see any kind of form, but something was there. I wasn't looking at the wall beyond, but rather the space between me and the wall, as if there was some solid form that was blocking my view of anything else. And I knew immediately that this was my grandfather. He'd come to help me move on. He didn't stay long, but long enough for me to know that all was okay.
Yeah.
I was a bit freaked out after this, and I did call out for my mom. And when I explained to her what happened, I didn't say that I thought I'd been visited for fear that she wouldn't believe me. I just explained about the air and the smell, etc. But she asked me, "Do you think it was your grandfather?"
Oh.
And I said, "I know it was." And after that, I was able to leave the guilt behind and enjoy the memory of him just as he was in my life.
That is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Now for my spooky cat who had his own little ghost visitation.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. Like cats, dogs, animals do see things on the other side.
They also can have paranormal encounters.
Yeah, they just often can't tell us.
Mm-hmm. They just freak the fuck out.
Yeah.
We have a 10-month-old black cat named Boo Radley, a To Kill a Mockingbird reference. We call him Boo, Pookie Boo, Pumpkin, and occasionally Turd, because he acts like one sometimes.
I call it a little turd too.
He's an indoor kitty, but we have a screened-in porch that he gets to go on.
So
and it's
sweet.
his favorite hangout.
Oh, his catio.
His catio! He was out there one morning, and I was sitting just inside having my cup of coffee in bed, and all of a sudden he approached the sliding glass door with his tail tucked butt low to the ground, like a cat does when they're curious about something that frightens them a little bit.
Yeah.
I figured he was just looking at his reflection, but he's used to seeing that a lot in our house, in the glass doors, the various mirrors here and there.
The mirrors specifically for Boo Radley. I like to think that there's just like little cat mirrors.
Yeah, all set up on the ground. It's like tummy time for him.
It's like when we were at Ash's house and there were the little like water bowls on the floor.
I love those
and your
bowls.
your first thought was, "Oh, Noah will love these when he's a little bit older." It's like Noah's going to be drinking water out of like cat bowls.
Ash had these like cat bowls. They were like little fountains, so it was like fresh water like circulating through. And I was like, I should put my breast milk in that when Noah can like
crawling around.
When he can crawl. I was like, that will make it easier for me. He can be independent. I'll just leave a bowl of breast milk.
Noah is now a little cat.
I mean, you do a lot of the same things that you do for animals
true.
for babies. Generally, he ignores his reflection, but his behavior was really off. He stopped about 3 feet from the door, raised his front paws up like he was trying to feel something in front of him, eyes remaining transfixed towards the door, and after a few seconds, he dropped his front legs down by his side but remained upright on his haunches, just staring. And this is when I started recording him on my phone. He stood there for the no, there's just a picture. He stood there for the longest time for a cat in this trance-like state, his ears darting around as if he was hearing this sound, but the sound coming from every direction. His body would twitch every now and then like he was just a little bit startled. And he sometimes was looking slightly left or right as if he could see something. But what? There was nothing there. Nothing was moving, not inside the house or out. There was no bugs, nothing unusual in the reflection from behind him. there was not one thing that I could discern or garner such a response from him. I can't stress enough how weird this behavior was. I've never seen him sit or act like this before or since. And if he thought that he was seeing another cat, he would not act like this at all. Remember us calling him a little turd? Well, that's because when he sees other cats, he stalks them and he plays attack cat. He's never passive. And we have 2 older cats and he drives them crazy, always trying to start something. Now, I probably would have just chalked this up to cats being these delightful little weirdos that they are. But then he started moving towards the door. He was very careful. He was moving super slow, pausing every few inches to survey what might be ahead. He peeked inside, looked around, took a few tentative steps forward, saw me, and then darted under the bed to hide, where he stayed for the next several hours.
Oh my gosh.
The porch behavior was certainly weird, but hiding under the bed is not his personality at all, especially for that long.
Right.
Something had spooked him enough that he was not taking any chances. I'm convinced he had some sort of paranormal experience. His eyes stayed level with his own, so I'm guessing he was seeing maybe a ghost kitty. We did lose our beloved cat Peanut last year, and she was 20 years old and an absolute queen of our household. She never was particularly friendly with other cats, so maybe she just stopped by to let him know that this was still her house.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I have to say that Peanut put Boo in his place, and he's been an angel ever since. But alas, he is still a turd. See you and all the fur babes on the other side, Jennifer.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
That's a lot to unpack.
Yeah. I mean, Jennifer's experiencing a ton, just like a lifetime
Everywhere.
of paranormal experiences, intuition, psychic abilities, basically experiencing and witnessing the death of a loved one.
I'm so sorry. That's so hard. But I do love that her grandfather did come to like give a final goodbye and help ease any sadness and pain that Jennifer was experiencing. The moment that Jennifer explained like the Jesus giving her wings and like the melting away that black tar and turning it into pearls reminds me so much of somatic therapy mixed with EMDR work.
Oh.
Which is, again, we've talked about this, how like therapy and magic and witchcraft all to me seem so intertwined.
Yeah.
Like shadow work is literally a combination of therapy and...
Right. Yeah. Energy work and all that.
Magic.
It is magic. And it also makes me wonder, like, I know we won't ever have the answers, but how much of it is our brain fixing itself? And how much of it is just like actual energy and like taking from things around us?
Both.
And it's also, it creeps me out and I don't understand how like atoms, like how do we exist?
I know. Because like
the atoms don't
are
touch
moving so fast.
Each other. They're just like, but how do we stay solid and not just like fully evaporate and just like
it's crazy.
How does that happen?
Gravity.
And then how do we like make wallpaper?
We've had this conversation. How do you make anything? Like how do you make metal? How do you make it? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't
and like
make
people
sense.
can be like, oh, here are the processes to make it. But like when you go down to how do atoms stay together?
It makes no sense.
No, it does not.
But I do have one last story. And this is me being grateful for someone sending me or us a story that
sending me a story.
Because this is from our listener, Amanda, and it is called, Do Ghosts Watch You Having Sex? Thank you.
Okay, this was sent for Sabrina.
Yeah, past lives and astral projection. And then just straight into it. But seriously, it's a huge concern of mine. My mom recently passed away, and I'm constantly looking for signs of her presence, hoping any little sound is her. And as much as we all believe ghosts are around us, and some of us are hoping they are around us, has anyone else been disturbed that their ghostly loved one, like their mom, is also there while you're having sex?
It reminded me of, we might have it on the bookshelf at this point.
I Kissed a Ghost and I Liked It.
Oh, well, Conchetta Bertoldi's other book where it's like, do ghosts watch you shower or something like that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or do dead people. I don't know what it is, but Conchetta Bertoldi. She's
Yes.
got multiple books.
Seriously, though, I knew this group would feel me on that huge concern of mine. Oh, like for sure, ghosts are watching you have sex.
I think about it a lot. Every time you hear like a little creak or a pop, you're like, who is that?
Yeah.
I don't think about it when I'm having sex. I think about it when I'm pooping.
I think about it pretty much all the time. Like if I'm in the shower, sometimes when the thought crosses my mind and I am like in the shower, I'll go, ooh.
Just a random little shimmy.
Put a little show on.
You're going to get a reputation in the
in the astral
ghostly world. They're going to be like, so I was just popping in, cruising by, and then this random naked lady just shimmies every once in a while. You've got to come see it.
You got to come see her tits.
Weirdest thing, this one human, she showers and shimmies. Maybe that's how you'll get abducted. The aliens will hear about it and be like, that's
Listen,
a curious
I do that
one.
all the time for the aliens too.
Keep
and
doing
they've
it.
yet to get, I'm going to go out in the woods and just be like, aliens!
Well, you're going to make it into the Marblehead newspaper again, but for a different reason.
Okay, well, if we go over to, what's the place in New Hampshire? The mountains where Betty and Barney Hill were abducted.
Oh, yeah. The White Mountains, like
The White
Franconia
Mountains.
Notch area.
I will shimmy my
North
tits there
Conway.
for the aliens.
Okay.
Catch you there. Anyway, I'm actually emailing you guys to tell you of my coworker's story about how she hypnotized herself and saw her past lives, along with how she died and chose another dimensional version of herself to jump into.
No way. Everything, everywhere, all at once.
Crazy. I know. So I have to say, she does compliment us.
Oh, thank you.
Before your lovely podcast, which I am obsessed with, by the way, and have been since 2019, I never believed in reincarnation, past lives, or other dimensions. It all sounded really crazy to me, but you guys have opened up my eyes to how amazing people and this world can be more than we can see. So my coworker, let's call her G, is a very spiritual person who is very into feeling people's auras, hypnotizing, reading people's cards, etc. And the other day, I heard her chit-chatting about how she thought a kid had been hypnotized into a previous life. The second I heard her say this, I pull her aside to talk to her. So these are her stories.
So this was like a past life regression sort of thing.
I think so.
Yeah.
This is like a quote from G. I had this intense fear of dogs. I had no rhyme or reason for that fear, but it would just consume me. So I decided to hypnotize myself. Next thing I knew, I was a young child, probably around 6. And I was foraging for some food when out of nowhere, some kind of prehistoric animal, like a big dog but the size of a lion with a gigantic horn on its head, charged me and impaled me in the stomach, destroying a vital organ, which resulted in my death. The next time I hypnotized myself was because I hate to cook, like absolutely hate it. I just knew there had to be a reason behind it. So I hypnotized myself again, and I was back in the colonial days. I was a young girl, and I had a pet goat. We were poor, no money for food, and we were starving. So my parents decided to slaughter my pet goat and forced me to help cook the goat for dinner. No wonder why I hate to cook. G's last story has to do with an experience with another dimension. So G had to get surgery, and this surgery felt off to her as if she had a piece about her life and it was complete. And in this surgery, the doctors had done something wrong and it ended up killing her. At this time, her soul left her body. She astral projected and was able to see herself below. In front of her astral self were all these geometrical shapes. She explained having the feeling like they were different versions of her life in other dimensions. So she grabbed one and it brought her back to her body, back to a surgery, back to life. But she had no mental connection to anything or anyone that was previously in her life. Even with her 2 kids, she couldn't remember her feelings of them being born or when they were little, and they were opposite of what she remembered them as. Her daughter acted like her son, and her son acted like her daughter from this life where she had died in surgery. She feels as if grabbing one of those shapes allowed her to use one of her other lives, but it pulled her into her current life, the one where I know her, and the emotional aspect stayed the same of the person that she took over.
This is so wild, and it reminds me so much of the stories that people share. Like I've seen some on like TikTok and Reddit and stuff where people are like, where they wake up from like a dream that feels like they lived a lifetime, and in this life they don't have a child or something.
Things
and they're like grieving
or slightly off.
Yeah, things are slightly off, or it's like they had like a relationship or like a certain job or like a kid, and they have to grieve that. It just like doesn't exist in the current life that they have.
It makes me think also, we read a story of someone who like doesn't connect with their family and has like different memories than all of their family members. We read this like not too long ago. Do you remember that one?
Not really.
Because you read it.
It's funny because like I feel like we remember better like what we hear from the other person versus what we're just like saying.
So our listening retention is better than our reading retention?
I guess so.
Yeah.
But it's reminding me of an email that we read years ago about that girl who graduated from 2 different colleges, but like only graduated from one, but has like wait, did we read this or did I see this online?
I don't know.
Wait, maybe this was on TikTok.
We have no retention.
No. But there was a girl who, it was like kind of like a glitch in the matrix situation where like she remembers graduating from this one specific college and has photos of her graduation from this college. But simultaneously in a scrapbook, there are photos of her graduating from a completely other college that she never like recalls going to, but like it exists. Like both, proof of
they both exist?
Exist.
Which one's real?
Good question. That is her
Which
question
school
too.
has the record? But that's also like a weird glitch in a glitch. Like that's a bug in the programming.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Fix it, you guys.
Amanda
Whoever's
said,
listening.
I was blown away by G's stories, and being in a world where people still don't believe in ghosts, I knew you guys would be the only other people who would be excited to hear stories of past lives and starting new lives. Hope this was as mind-blowing to you as it was to me. It was.
Mm-hmm.
See you on the other side, but hopefully see you on this side, Amanda.
Wow, those are wild. And it's, I mean, again, like Many Lives, Many Masters, Brian Weiss, we have it right up there.
Right.
The past life regression and connecting phobias to what happened to you in a past life. The being attacked by that horned animal is really scary.
It feels very prehistoric.
It does. That's why I was like, what is this animal?
My biggest question about this, like glitching into another version of yourself story is, what happened to that one version, that one iteration? Where did they go?
Yeah, exactly.
Which version of yourself had to die? Because
do you displace that person's soul, or is this kind of like what we had talked about before, where like every human is all connected to the same consciousness and we're just fragments chipped off for this like one celestial being to experience life in many different forms, and it's just absorbed into the next one. So like maybe when she jumps, like it's just like two pieces
like splitting,
almost coming together. So like she died there and that part of her joined another part of her that already exists. So it's like,
but she has like no connection, and like it's weird what part of consciousness is hers and what part is the other version of hers. This is why it's confusing, complicated, and again, we know nothing. But
why not?
Why not?
Why not question? Why not ask?
Why not believe?
Why not email us your ghost stories at twogirlsoneghostpodcast@gmail.com?
And why not ask all your friends and family and strangers and mailmen and milkmen, if those still exist in your timeline, their ghost stories.
Yeah.
And email them to us.
Join our Patreon if you want to get bonus content, full-length episodes ad-free and 1 week early, campfire stories, book club, all the good things, $5 a month.
Yeah. Thank you so much to our editor, Jamie Ryan, for editing and producing our podcast. And thank you to all of you. We love you so much.
And we will see you on the other side.